too.
Let's look at the detail. It's our top story today because another day, another suspension for the Labour Party. Well, the candidate, Graham Jones, has been given the boot after a recording emerged of him yesterday making damning comments about Israel. In the studio with us is Freddie Gray from The Spectator. Freddie, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well.
Good.
Just talk us through the timeline of what happened yesterday, because Labour had dithered, then they said we're removing our support from the candidate standing in Rochdale, and then more allegations about different people come to light.
It was almost impeccably bad timing. It was obviously embarrassing for Keir Starmer over Azhar Ali. He had to perform a U-turn. He was going to not sack him. He eventually did push him out. And then the news drops of a second one, just at the perfectly bad moment. I mean,
and this is someone who formerly had been an MP.
Formerly been an MP. And there are also people who were sort of closer to Keir Starmer than a lot of the kind of fringe anti-Semites in the Labour Party that he's quite easily able to dismiss. And the thing I just think about it is, you know, after however many years, over a decade, of infighting among Tories, of bickering and chaos, what are we going to get? We're going to get a Labour Party which is chaotic, full of infighting and chaos.
The interesting thing is, I want to make this point. I think he has made massive changes to the Labour Party in 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an anti-Semitic bone in his body. He's married to a Jewish woman.
Absolutely not.
But I want to know whether people think this is an isolated example or, in fact, it shines a light on a problem that still, I believe, exists within the very fabric of the Labour Party. And I'm told by people far more intelligent than me this morning that the Tories will sit back and allow them to destroy themselves and play out. And I'm sure they'll win the election, apparently, and they'll win these by-elections. But I think this should be a sounding board. We live in a country, Freddie, and I'm really passionate about this, where, quite rightly, any form of racism is jumped upon, and so it should be. But the Jewish community has been plagued with this sort of thing for far too long. And really, if you consider that these people are going to apparently be public servants, I think it needs looking at, and I think something needs to change. I really do.
Well, I think the Labour Party has an anti-Semitism problem, and it's so deep that Keir Starmer, for all his best efforts, has not been able to remove it. We've got to look at why that is. And I think partly this is a difficult thing to talk about because one doesn't want to make sweeping assumptions about people, but Labour has a significant Muslim vote. Within the Muslim community, there are significant anti-Semitic feelings, significant, strong anti-Israel feelings, some of them arguably politically justified, but also strong and fierce anti-Semitism, and you see it in the language. Labour has not done enough to distance itself from that. And that is something that's it's not going to affect it for the next election. It's going to win the next election.
When you say it hasn't done enough, is it that things like the selection process isn't robust enough?
Well, I think part of the problem is that in certain constituencies, the radical left, a combination of a sort of radical left and a Muslim community that feels very, very strongly about Gaza and also has anti-Semitic elements, is too strong to resist. You know, these things have to be democratic. You can control the selection process to a certain point, but at some point, you've got to do what your voters are asking for. And if your voters are nominating candidates that feel this way, they're going to vote for candidates
Why do we... I want to go back to it, and I take your point, and there are many people, and it is difficult, Freddie, because there are many people who will not sit on television and radio and say what you've just said. You know, there are... Can I just point out... No, there are hundreds of thousands of wonderful Muslim people, the length and breadth of this country, but there are an element of all sorts of people that are wrong. What I find so wrong, and I really do feel this passionately, right? I have some... And, you know, there's people that go, oh, I have got really good Jewish friends. And I never have understood in this country. I find any form of racism abhorrent, but Jewish people, it's not looked on in the same way. And I think that this is a prime moment where we should be saying that anti-Semitism is racist and it is wrong and it should be stamped out. I really do.
Well, it's definitionally racist and it is the world's oldest hatred.
Why?
Why? Because, well, I suppose, you know, you can go back to the history of Christianity if you like. You know, there was a lot of anti-Semitism in early Christianity. Islam has a long history of anti-Semitism. I mean, you know, possibly it's because Jewish people are very good at being successful by themselves. It is a race-based religion, or has been. That, of course, produces antipathy. I mean, it's a complicated problem, but it's a deep one.
What does Keir Starmer do? Yeah. Because I think he would be in a stronger position now had he not dithered initially.
Short of himself making a grossly anti-Semitic statement, Keir Starmer can get away with anything at the moment. He's going to win these Labour are going to win these by-elections. The Tories are in such trouble. This is a problem for the future of Labour. It's not a problem for Keir Starmer winning the next election.
Because the wider context of this, even if we just look at what's happening in the next few days, you've got 2 by-elections taking place this week. Inflation's held, but they may be talking about whether we're in recession or not tomorrow. By Friday, all of these headlines could be telling a very different story, which is crisis for the Conservatives.
Exactly. What you have is a disastrous party in government and a chaotic, infighting party in opposition, but they're going to win.
Can I just say, we need to do this. You can see the full list of candidates standing in that Rochdale by-election. It's on the 29th on the talkTV website. Very important that we point that out for the right reasons. But 3 by-elections, Freddie, in the next week or so. And let's go back to what you're saying. Yes, we've had 13 years, and the Tory party, we were talking to David Gauke, the ex-Justice Secretary, just now about this large number of Tory MPs, the highest ever that have given up, 57, I think, many on Sunak's watch. And we were saying to him, is it become a harder job? Are rats leaving the sinking ship?
That's the metaphor I was about to use.
Yeah, it strikes me that they've given up. I genuinely mean that.
Certainly. I mean, a lot of them are politicians tend to be ambitious, career-focused people, so they're thinking about what's going to happen next. There's not a lot of loyalty to the Tory party brand. I think a lot of them are giving up.
Some are giving up. Some are seeing this as an opportunity to reshape what the Conservative Party looks like if they lose. And we can see sort of some elbows out and jostling ideologically right now about what it actually means to be Conservative. So some are saying, well, I want to stick with this party, but I want to change its sort of outlook.
There's quite a lot of groups doing that. The latest one's called Popcon.
Popcon, yes. And what's interesting is a lot of Conservatives are deep down or secretly hoping for total wipeout.
See, this is interesting. I agree with this.
Why?
Because they want the party to suffer, to be sort of taught a lesson for being a high-tax, high-spend party of the last decade. And then they can come in and say, this is where we've gone wrong. We've got this threat from reform to our right. They can come in and say, we need to reform. It could be the Popcons, it could be the New Conservatives.
How do they come up with these ridiculous names? I mean, you make a really
salient conservatism. It's a nice
I know, but you make a really salient point. I mean, I say this a lot. I'm older than all of you. When we were growing up, conservatism was sort of described to us as low taxation, fiscal responsibility, secure borders, and a strong military. And whoever you are and whatever your voting inclination is, those 4 things do not represent this Tory government. No. They do not. We have no military. We have borders that are overrun. I mean, this is a fact. We have the highest taxation in 70 years. And many Conservatives, I feel, politically, they feel homeless.
And a sense of competence, which has completely been trashed. And so a lot of Tories feel, a lot of Conservative voters, a lot of Conservative members feel, without some sort of humiliation at the ballot, they're not going to get the change they want.
There's another big election this year happening in the United States. You wrote this fascinating piece in the Telegraph this week about what happens if the current vice president has to step into the shoes of Joe Biden. What does that look like? Why is it proving a bit contentious?
Well, as we all saw last week, Joe Biden had a shocker. He has had a shocker, actually, for about 4 years, but not everyone's been talking about it. Now everybody's admitting he's not OK. He's unable
issues
to
with his memory,
issues with his memory, etc. So the obvious question becomes, what happens if he can't actually make it to election day? And already we're seeing the Democratic Party putting out these messages saying Kamala's ready to serve. Kamala Harris, the vice president, said yesterday, "I'm ready to."
I could beat Kamala Harris, and I'm not even American.
Okay,
but you're talking about if something goes wrong between now and the election.
Yeah.
Not even if he wins again.
I'm beginning to think, particularly the last few weeks, I'm beginning to think he might struggle to make it to August, which is the Democratic Party's.
I'm not into conspiracy theories, but I read a fantastic article last night. Can't even tell you where it was because I can't remember. The Democratic Party, led by Obama, had a plan with Joe Biden. We all know that. And that plan was, do a couple of years, Sleepy Joe. That's your payoff for having been a good vice president. Kamala Harris, a friend of the Obamas, will step into the job. She has been even less popular and less successful than I don't know who, the worst person. For them now, there's an issue, isn't there? And this article was talking about Trump, and it was talking about Biden and senility and another 4 years. And do you know who they say that the Democrats, this article, they believe will be parachuted in? You know, Michelle Obama.
I think there is a lot of talk about that. I think a lot of it is fantasy.
OK.
I think the Obamas have not made any sort of statement to that effect.
Who else is there?
But it's possible they could be so desperate by the convention.
Would she beat Donald Trump?
Michelle Obama, I would say no, but that's a controversial opinion. I think most people would say yes.
You just think that the planning seems to have been so poor from the party.
I agree with you. It's insane. Well, you're completely right that Biden presented himself. He said, I'm going to be a bridge to the next generation, and talked about himself as a one-term president. But once you get on Air Force One, you're unlikely to give it up.
But I actually, and I've said it, I know, Rosie, I repeat myself almost daily, but I used to find it laughable. I feel sorry for him. I feel anger towards even his wife and these people that are putting a man who should be relaxing after 50 years of public service. He doesn't know what day it is. I don't care if people find that offensive, but they have no succession plan.
I think that's overstating it a little bit. I think that the challenge...
Mate, you can't expect the leader of the free world to even... Hear me out a sec. The leader of the free world doesn't know who the president of France or Mexico or whatever... He doesn't know how to walk off a stage. That's not funny anymore. That's disrespectful to Joe Biden, in my humble opinion.
I think it's very sad. And also voters, Americans, are feeling increasingly angry about it because they've essentially been lied to about his condition for quite a long time now. He's been hidden away to a large extent.
Well, and when our Prime Minister is asked about if he's concerned about Joe Biden's sort of ability to do the job, he has said, no, he's not. And I think he feels he can't give any other answer.
Can I ask one more quick question, or are we up against time?
That's not up to me.
Is it better? It is up to you. You're in charge. Is it better for Donald Trump that Biden stays confused in the White House? Is it better for Donald Trump that they show themselves to be incompetent to put in Kamala Harris or Michelle Obama? Because I know this is a contentious view shared only by Mike Graham, you and me. I think Donald Trump's going to be the 47th president of the United States of America.
I think you're right in the sense the polls are all pointing in that direction. I think Trump hatred is extremely strong still.
Yep.
And that's the factor that could stop him. The economy is going to be very important. Signs look as though the American economy is improving a lot. If that carries on, that's bad news for Trump. The border issue is massive for Trump. If the Democrats get on top of that, illegal immigration, that could change things. But overall, at the moment, it's looking like Trump wins against Biden, against Harris, and arguably, I say, even against the Democrats.
Great to have you here, Freddie. You're a legend. Love it. Thank you, my friend.
Great to be here.